Hi, I'm Dr. Isla Sanchez, Senior Content Developer for Statistics at zyBooks, and today I'm going to talk to you about scaffolding and the Introduction to Statistical Investigation in zyBook. Throughout the book, topics are introduced in a way that reinforces earlier material while expanding the understanding of core concepts. As an example of how this is done, I'd like to dig into a few spots within the first two chapters. In the preliminary chapter, right away in the first section, students learn what is called the 6 steps of a statistical investigation. This will be used as a framework throughout the book and revisited many, many times. The remainder of the preliminary chapter introduces basic terminology about distributions and random processes, as well as introduces what a simulation is to students. Moving ahead a bit to the first section of the significance chapter, students are considering an experiment about whether or not dolphins can communicate, taught entirely within that 6-step framework. Definitions are introduced in the context of this study, and eventually students are tasked with conducting a simulation themselves using an integrated simulation zy tool. Here in this one, students learned about a coin toss model about the dolphin study, where the dolphins pressed a button 16 times, and so students flip a coin 16 times. So they're asked, okay, how many coin tosses simulate that study? Put in 16. And then they simulate one repetition of the study, another repetition, another, and eventually have to put in enough to see a pattern. Here about 1,000 will do, and they see, what we all know is a familiar normal shape distribution. In the second section, students instead consider a study about playing rock, paper, scissors. Again, the study is brought up in the context of the 6-step method. Definitions introduced in the previous section are reintroduced here, but in the context of this new study, where students are, in this section, asked in the form of a learning question: what is the sample for this study? What was the statistic for this study? New definitions are then scaffolded on top of those things by introducing them in the context of rock, paper, scissors now. Eventually, when students are tasked with conducting a simulation for this, they'll be greeted by a simulation zy tool that now has features scaffolded on top of what they previously saw. So before, the probability of success was frozen at 50. Success was already pre-picked for them. They didn't even have to say that heads was success. But now they're going to have to look at the study and say, oh, what was success in this study? It was scissors. What was the probability of success here? It was 1 in 3. And how many rounds did the people in the study play? Oh, they played 12 rounds. Then again, they simulate study, they simulate study, they simulate study. Eventually they build up a null distribution. And now they have new features that are scaffolded into this tool that reflect the definitions that were introduced in the section, particularly null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, and also measuring the strength of evidence by counting repetitions as extreme as the observed statistic. They enter the observed statistic from the study. You see there's 193 simulations which had less than or equal to the observed statistic, and they can answer the question with it. And scaffolding continues throughout the section as more and more concepts are introduced and integrated into the simulation zy tools. Here they learn about the standardized statistic. In 2.4, they learn about directionality of the alternative hypothesis. And in 2.5, they learn about the theory-based approach and instead using a normal distribution instead of simulations. If you'd like more details on the approach or why the concepts are scaffolded in this manner, there are other videos on that. We also have a section here under the last chapter of the book titled Instructor Resources, which will help you understand what you might need to know about this approach or what you might need to change if you're switching to teaching using this approach. And of course, if you have any other questions, you can reach out to us via email, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.